Good day everyone, my name is Anafami bin Muhammad Adnan and today I will be representing my team to do a presentation on this XEROX machine called photocopying machine. So I will be explaining in details about all the items, about all the inputs that we use and what are the functions of each part. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. If you zoom out this whole XEROX machine, we can actually see several compartments, one of which is a tricky password. We have a password here. We also have the input for the input paper, how many papers you want. We also have a counter and we have a comparator to determine the number of paper that we printed and the number of paper that the customer wants. We also have a common clock and we also have the idea of property. So this, I will explain in a bit more detail. Let's get straight into our first compartment, which is a tricky password, because this is the most important compartment. If you don't get this compartment right, none of the function will actually work, right? For this thing, we actually use a decoder. Now, the function of a decoder is actually to detect a certain part of input and to channel that to a certain part of output. And in this case, we make sure that our decoder function is actually 100. And as you can see, there's an enabler that's connected to each part of it. There's an input enabler. And the reason for that is that if your decoder have enable at the logic low, then the decoder will not actually function. So we want it turned into 1 so that it produces the output of the one that we desire. We have the input in terms of A0, A1, A2, A3. So if let's say we want 12 paper, we would organize them as 0, 0, 1, 1. And as a matter of fact, in terms of the counter compartment, we are actually using a D flip-flop. And by the way, if you pay attention enough, it's actually an asynchronous counter. And the reason why it's an asynchronous counter is because not all the clock are connected to a common clock comparator. Now for comparator, it's highly advisable for you to use an XNOR gate. Now the clock, which is the heartbeat of this whole circuit, only when the clock is run that the counter, that the D flip-flop or D flip-flop 0 will actually run. So if D flip-flop 0 doesn't actually run because there's no input of the clock, then the next D flip-flop, the cascading flip-flop, will not actually run. But the very next thing is the properties. If you can see clearly that the tricky password, the AND gate, is actually connected to all of the AND gate of the properties that we have here. So this is why I say that the multiplexer, the tricky password, is actually a very important part in this whole circuit, because without them, basically this whole thing cannot run. So MUX21, what does MUX21 means? MUX21 basically means that I'm using a multiplexer with 2 input and 1 output. Now when we select the 0, S0 is equal to 0, that means it's going to take I0. That means it's going to take the black and white. When we select S0 is equals to 1, at the input there, then that means the color print will be taken, because color print is connected to the I1. And so that is, and also the same general rules apply towards the landscape and also the portrait. So as a matter of fact, we will run this thing to see how in all the gist of everything that happens. So as I said before, our password is actually 100, and we have to set our enabler as 1, because if we don't, then the whole decoder will not function. Alright, that's one step. And the next thing is, I want to try how many printed paper I wanted to have, right? I just say I want 12 papers. Okay, maybe we don't use 12. Okay, maybe we just use around 6 papers, because it's a C different. Obviously you can do it, but I'm trying to explain this much simpler terms. Now I have to make my preset N clear to be 1, and as a matter of fact, now I can go to my clock generator, which I can show you for a while. Now I can enable this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then stop. So this is a saturated counter. We're not recycling it back. As a matter of fact, now we see how the customer can actually see how many printed pages have already been printed according to what they initially done. Sometimes if I put S0 is equal to 0, then it's going to take the input of I0. And this is so then you can see here your BW means black and white. The input of it is 1, it's logic highs. But let's just say I put my input here to be 1. What will the output be? Now, automatically we change it to color. Now color becomes 1 and BW becomes 0. The output of it. Now, as a matter of fact, this is because, again, like I said, when the S0 is equals to 1, the output Y will equals to D1, which is in this case is I1, which is in this case, it's a color printed paper. And I think the same logic applies when it comes to landscape and also portrait. So you can see as I toggle this input, the output also toggle. And that's just like a gist on to tell the customer like this is what it's actually imposing on. And so as a matter of fact, that is actually a basic understanding on how you can make a photocopying machine, a XEROX photocopying machine, using knowledge of digital logic, a simple basic encompass of all ideas. And that's all for me. Thank you very much.